Alright, welcome back. This lesson is a continuation on the straight angles lesson that we just looked at. We call these vertical angles. And the last time we looked at straight angles was that, well, if we have any line that looks like this, there's 180 degrees within the line. So from here to here, 180 degrees. And then sometimes we have, we'll call this line 1, for example, two lines that intersect each other. So we have a line this way, and then we might have a line that intersects it in this fashion here. We'll call this line 2. So there's our two intersecting lines, and then they may give us this angle here, for example, to be 100 and let's go. No, that's not really 100 degrees. So let's call this, the size of this angle, 50 degrees. Okay, and then we're asked to find, for example, this angle X, this angle Y, and this angle Z, respectively. So the three other angles. So the last time we talked, we said, well, in a straight line, let's look at line 1 here, there's 180 degrees within any straight line. So that means if this angle here is 50 degrees, this angle here that creates line 1 has to be 130 degrees. It's whatever 180 minus 50 comes out to be. It's 130. Should have been able to do that in your head. It's relatively easy. So there's 130 degrees for that angle there. However, if we look at line 2, that line that crossed line 1 intersected it this way, that's also a straight line. So that means within this line 2, there's also 180 degrees within that line. So that means, well, if this line here is made up of this angle 50 degrees, this angle Z must be the difference between 180 and 50 degrees. So it is 130 degrees as well. And then lastly, for line 1 going this way, if you look at the very bottom of it, well, the bottom of the line 1, is made up of these two angles that sit below line 1, angle Z and angle Y. Those two add up to make that line 1. And again, because it's a line, there's 180 degrees within it. So quick arithmetic tells us that there's 180 degrees altogether for Z and Y. And we know this is 130 degrees. Well, left over for angle Y must be 50 degrees. And if you notice, the values that we use around this kind of diagram, if you will, repeat just 130 or 50. Namely, notice how when the two lines cross, these angles that are diagonally across from each other, they're equal to each other. 50 degrees here, and then the angles diagonally this way are both 130 degrees. So vertical angles are these relationships that exist between diagonal angles, and when two lines cross, we call them vertical angles. We abbreviate them VA for short. Vertical angles are always equal to each other, and that's what I always memorize in my head in terms of how that works with vertical angles. Again, VAs for short, VAs are always equal to each other, which means for any two lines that intersect, let's say we have a line like this, we'll call this line 1, and another line that looks like this. Doesn't matter how they're drawn or oriented, as long as they intersect, you're going to create a pair of two pairs of vertical angles. This angle here is equal to that angle there, and that's why we mark it in geometry with a one little angle symbol. So those are equal. And then this angle here, double, if you will, is equal to that angle there. So diagonally across are equal to each other, and then diagonally across they're equal to each other. So whatever the size of this angle is, let's say for the sake of discussion, this happens to be 30 degrees. That means this angle here is 30 degrees because they're vertical angles, and vertical angles are equal. If this angle here is 150 degrees, that means this angle over here is 150 degrees. Vertical angles are always equal to each other. And, you know, they could have all sorts of geometry problems that come out of this with algebra in it, but the idea here, most importantly, is that vertical angles are always equal to each other in terms of how we set that up. So I don't know, they might have a algebra problem that looks something like this. Here's line 1, intersects this way. Here's line 2. They may say that this side here is, let's go 160 degrees. This side here is 5x plus 30. And they ask us to solve this thing for x. Well, because these guys are vertical angles, meaning this guy and this guy, they're diagonally across from each other where two lines intersect, that means they must be equal to each other. So that means we can say 5x plus 30, this angle, must be equal to that angle 160. And then from there we can solve this thing algebraically, subtract 30 from both sides. This gives us 5x, because 30 minus 3 is 0, equals 160 minus 30 is 130. And then we divide both sides by 5. So x is, looks like 26 is x. And then we just solve this equation for x. Because, again, it allows us to say that the vertical angles are equal. So, pretty straightforward as long as you understand the vertical angle relationship. Any two lines that intersect, vertical angles will be equal to each other. Alright. And that's it for vertical angles.